All right, so Esa is represents the Department of Musicology here at the University of Helsinki. Wrote his PhD on the harmony of heavy metal music and heavy metal music, that is. And yeah, the session or the group here, these two papers, UskoMus and Esa's, they were grouped together under the modes of migration. So the idea there was pretty much that what UskoMus was talking about, the migration of people, but here we are maybe talking about the ways in which musical elements might migrate or move around the world in different ways. So it's a different aspect of this in my perception, but maybe we'll see or hear more about how Esa feels about this. But yes, the stage is yours.
Yes, thank you. Yes, actually, this is something I haven't done an exhaustive study yet. Only that Antti will ask me to present something along the lines of the theme of this symposium. So I had, as a starting point, sort of an intuition about this rhythmic pattern and its suggested travel across the world. And as I started to find out, I thought my intuition could be at least partially correct. But if some of you is an expert of any of the musical styles presented here, and I have made some sort of mistakes, please correct me. This won't be funny. So, basically, I start with a question which doesn't belong to this group. Of course, it depends on the definition and point of view, but there we have Arabic 11th century musicians, then Ottomans, then a klezmer group from Ukraine in 1925, also some German composer from the 18th century, Spanish composer from the 19th century, a French troubadour from 12th century, and a British heavy metal group from 1980s. And from the perspective of this presentation, the answer is the middle-aged fellow in the middle, J.S. Bach, that is. The perspective is this one. It's a pattern that has many names around the world. The Spanish call it tresillo. Are you musicians? Some of you are. Yeah, well, then you know. Da, 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 da. I don't have to play this from YouTube. I think this is enough. Right? And in the course of history, it can be found in, for instance, Middle East, Southeast Europe, Iberian Peninsula, Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, North America, British heavy metal, etc. But where it seems to be missing is from the so-called Euroclassical stuff. And I will take you now around the world in about 20 minutes. And according to the sources I've been looking into at the moment, it seems that the pattern was migrated from Arabic Peninsula to Spanish Al-Andalus, where it sort of migrated elsewhere during the some hundreds of years. And actually this Al-Andalus is very important, or nowadays Cordoba, very important in those days. Around 11th century it became a sort of, in modern terms, center of music industry. A lot of instruments were made there, music theory was developing fast there, and so on, so on. Really rich culture. And then through migration, of course, migration of people. Music cannot travel by itself, or couldn't before the internet. Pattern went to Balkans, Southeast Europe, Ottomans, Middle East, otherwise northern parts of Africa, and so on. Oh, I already said that. Right. Okay. Now to some examples. First from the 11th century. And right. These were okay, no sound. Wait. Ah. Three. Yep. And then a couple of centuries later, from North Africa, Andalusian tiny piece. Oh, then for some reason I have a random but nice mixture of different styles here. I don't know how this dates, but anyway, it certainly sounds beautiful, so I'm going to play it anyway. Can you hear the pattern underlying here? It's in both instrumental sections and singing, phrasing, and so forth. Pienemmälle. Oh, is it too loud? Oh, sorry. Must be because my background in heavy metal, I play everything as loud as I can, basically. Sorry about that. Okay. Then a rare European guy from these days, early 12th century, French troubadour, Guillaume d'Aquitaine. Can you really hear it? Oh, a bit louder. Same beginning, basically. Just out of curiosity. If not for the coherence, but curiosity really. Right. Then we have Jewish entertainment music. Klezmer term is only around the 15th century. I would have guessed it was much earlier. As the Romani people, the Jews has been always sort of thrown around Europe and the world, and because of their social status, basically, at least that being one of the reasons, they had a lot of interaction with each other. And since the 19th century, the klezmer we hear today is actually not much older. But anyway, it's largely East European of its origin, from Balkans and Bessarabia, and so on. Wonderful. It's really good music. Really nice. And then flamenco, one of the musical styles that is not documented actually until the 18th century. And another mixture of traditions where these 3-3-2 patterns and its variations are in a central role. In a central role, not role. Just more fixed. A lot of variation here. You can see also reference to Al-Andalus musical style in this particular piece. Right. Then to the so-called New World. In what we nowadays know as Latin America. Then to the habanera style, developed from dance styles, contradanza. This is an early one. In the B section there's a clear 3-3-2 pattern. MIDI version. Oh, and then Iradier, Sebastian Iradier, in the mid-19th century, after his trip to Cuba, wrote the first European contradanza, La Paloma. Yeah. And then actually, from this perspective, styles as son and mambo are straight, direct derivatives of this style. In all of these examples, you have this bass line actually sounding there. It was and will be. This is in the 1920s.
Yo soy el todo, caballero, yo soy el todo. Y ando buscando a la mona que se perdió. Les pongan todo a una voz.
And quick peek on the rest of the South America. Brazil, samba, bossa nova have 3-3-2 in very prominent place, and in Argentinian tango, famous people Astor Piazzolla and Carlos Gardel, which I'm going to play just a bit. It's always nice to have Schwarzenegger in presentation if you can. But the piece is wonderful.
Oh no. О нет, танго, черт, влипли.
I didn't know he speaks fluent Spanish as well.
Sorry. Хелен, ребята, эй, не расслабляйтесь. Нас дело ждет. Ну ладно, ребята, хватит. Серьезнее надо быть. Я бы был серьезнее.
Well, not bad dancing for a bodybuilder. All right. Then to the US. How am I doing time-wise?
Well, maybe if you can finish up with 5 minutes. Then.
Yes, absolutely. No problems. Okay. Then, particularly New Orleans, we have a mixture of everything, basically. Everything presented before. Ragtime, which is said to be early jazz, according to some. This is Charlie Roll Morton. And this has of course influenced the other styles of jazz, so this pattern goes through this Dixieland, the swing and bebop and fusion and whatever you got basically. And then back in Europe, especially the UK, through American rock and roll records, which of course British bands first copied and then integrated to their own musical style. I play just a short example of Buddy Holly's Not to Fade Away as played by Rolling Stones. 62, April 4. Sonklave actually. And you cannot do a presentation without British heavy metal. Same thing here. Shut up. And as we know, as the German hip hop group used the same pattern actually in the background. We have this in many types of modern day popular music of the world, all over the world basically. And then how about your classical music? This is going to be my last example. To my knowledge, this pattern has been virtually non-existent until the 19th century Orientalism. First I know, tell me if you know something before this, but in Georges Bizet, Opera Carmen, this is of course in really central place. Right. Well, regarding the theme of this symposium, I sort of like to think like this. In musical terms, at least, music is and should be free of politics and religion, and I certainly think, in many ways, it has been. Right. That's it. Good.
All right. Yeah, maybe 5 minutes for questions and comments. Elina?
I have a comment, but I'm a little bit doubtful if you were tracing kind of it in the case of the blues and if it actually dates, if you can follow the route back from the Middle East to the US, because I think it's probably rather more likely that it comes from the African continent. And there is actually, but I cannot remember the name of that person because it has been such a long time. There's one guy who had this kind of a very mathematical kind of theory about rhythmic patterns in Africa. So he said that, well, there are different kinds of structures, and he basically calculated all these statistical options of how to divide, for example, 8 beats, or how to divide 12-beat structures, and he could find, then point to instances, for example, in Ghana and Nigeria, that okay, here they use this pattern, and there they use that pattern, and basically there were all these kinds of patterns where there's some sort of an uneven, how do you say it, Jako? Division, some kind of an uneven, so if there are 12 beats, it's usually 5 plus 7, or 7 plus 5, and so on. And I think they were similar, because these 12-beat structures are maybe more typical, but if there is an 8-beat structure, I think that would be then one of the options. I don't know if you have come across this.
This guy.
Yeah, probably that one.
Yes.
Yeah, so it reminds me a lot from, and he have all this, like different, he had a list of these kind of clave type of rhythms that, that how we can, and the different kind of transformations of the same rhythm, but in Africa you can find basically the same rhythm, but you start it on different.
Yes, absolutely, yes. This is, I know what you mean, and it's not contradictory from this perspective, I think.
No,
Maybe I didn't underline enough the this line from coming from Western Africa. So I thought it would be rather obvious, but anyway, to my knowledge, the way this pattern, at least how it's documented, could have fallen down from here to northern Africa and then to sub-Saharan by the interaction and the slave trade the Arabs were conducting in there. Yes, but these are really hard to say because we don't have any DVDs from there.
I would actually say that, I mean, from that what I remember, I don't know if it's the same article that you were showing or not, but I mean, the theory is kind of that there is this tendency, maybe it goes for, it's not that they have adopted it from others, but basically there is a kind of some sort of a human mental structure or preference towards these uneven structures, just like this, what's it called, golden
yes,
division
okay, now I
art,
understand, yeah.
that he compares it to this kind of that, as well as you can find in many different cultures this same kind of structuring in the paintings, and also in rhythms there is a certain kind of preference for these uneven structures, and these can be, he then calculates the different options in the case for Africa, but that might be the same for the Middle East as well.
Yes, I totally agree. What is funny here is that it seems to be lacking completely in this style.
Yes, yeah.
And that's maybe the most important or most interesting thing why the Germans and the French had 200 or 300 years that absolutely had no this kind of tresillo pattern or this uneven structuring. And that is funny, if nothing else, because everyone else seems to have it. Yes.
Thomas.
Yeah, I was just thinking, from what I understood from the presentation, it's about ideas of musical transmission that kind of defies our ideas of kind of national and continental boundary. I didn't quite get the point at the end about politics. Could you elaborate more on maybe specifically referencing the politics of multiculturalism?
Okay, well, basically politics and religion are not my piece of cake. I'm a musician, so I'm only speaking from my own point of view and perspective. What I'm trying to say that, which I personally think, and I think many musicians in the world seem to be only taking things, patterns, structures, what they hear and think as nice, and adapt them to their own music without further thinking that, oh, if I use this rhythmic pattern, I'm making a political statement or a religious one. And that's my point, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Still time for one more, thanks. Thanks, that was really entertaining as well as informative. And I'm wondering, has my brain been have I been brainwashed to hear like lots of bits of like Bach's Brandenburg concertos with that pattern underlying it? Is that maybe that the kind of more, well, these other genres and more contemporary music has made me think like that?
It could be.
Yeah,
it could be because in let's say 20th century European, Central European art music, this is rather common. And of course in Eastern European styles it has always been. But and then again, it's certainly possible that I'm wrong.
I'm just thinking, maybe the influence of these other styles has made me, or
We have to
teachers
check
told me
it
to
right
think of-
away, or if we don't have time.
It's in the middle of the...
In Bach, Brandenburg. Okay.
But it's a phrasing thing that maybe somebody else has sort of put upon it.
Absolutely, and I don't really know if there's any possible way of knowing that. Of course, you can stress different
Yeah,
different.
It's just fun to think
Da,
about
da,
it. It's a
da, da,
challenge,
da,
not
da, da, da,
such
da,
conscious
da, da,
kind of to-
Yes, all da 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 da
whether
all,
there's
all.
any route. Yeah, thanks
Well,
anyway.
well, I don't know.
challenge.
That's certainly something, some point to think. Yes, absolutely. Thanks. I needed that.
Right.
Okay.
Just a final word, continuing on what Thomas said, or asked about that, because I was also struck by the idea that there wouldn't be politics or religion. Well, I don't know if religion here matters so much, but the politics issue, when you mentioned that this has been, or emerges, especially in relation to Orientalist composing styles. So that in that sense, I find that there is a quite strong link to politics, or to politics of representation, how the other is represented purely musically.
Yeah, of course you can
So-
think like that, and that is probably also true. As I said, from a musician's point of view, I just hear nice things and reuse them.
Yeah.
And I think musicians have not been changed so much during the past 2,000 years or something like that. Or this, well,
All right.
All right.
Well, let's say that they haven't, and
yeah, well,
again.
okay. Thanks. Thanks.
All right. So maybe I don't know. I see that there's a tank over there, probably full of coffee available.